Today's lesson is Dialogue Focus, Going Out for Brunch. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our program. I am Roger.
And my name is Helen.
And, the program has only just started, but I'm already very hungry. I am famished. I'm starving. I want to get something to eat. But, it might be a little late to get breakfast and a little early to get lunch. So what should I do, Helen?
Well, maybe you should get brunch. In fact,
brunch.
It's the perfect time to get brunch now. It's around 11 a.m. and it's too late for breakfast, a bit early for lunch, so it's the perfect time for brunch.
Yes, we should mention that we are recording this program, and it is actually 11 a.m. in the morning. And yeah, I did miss my breakfast this morning, and I'm hungry right now, and I don't want to wait for lunch. So maybe we should go out for brunch. Unfortunately, though, we do have to remain here and host our program here, but we do have a conversation that is all about going out for brunch. We've got Paul trying to make a reservation at a restaurant for brunch.
Yes, and brunch is one of my favorite meals of the day. I too miss breakfast usually because I don't like eating too early, and sometimes I just get too busy to eat lunch, so I end up eating brunch.
Did we mention that the word brunch is kind of like the word breakfast and lunch kind of shoved together?
No, we didn't mention that, but I think that it sounds pretty obvious. Brunch, breakfast, lunch. If you say those two words really fast, then you end up with brunch.
English does that a lot of times. We take two words and kind of put them together, like the word frenemy. This person is my friend, but this person is also my enemy. But we're talking about brunch in today's program, and in part one, we are making a reservation, and Paul is talking to the restaurant manager. Let's listen in.
Going out for brunch. Making a reservation. Paul has called a restaurant to make a brunch reservation.
Hello, this is Brooklyn Grill. How may I help you?
Hi, I'd like to make a reservation for 2 for brunch this Saturday.
Okay, what time would you like to make the booking for?
Around 10:30 a.m.
Let me just check for you. Yes, we have a table for 2 available then. What name should I put down for the reservation?
Paul Gatherson, thanks.
My pleasure. Just to let you know in advance, we have a seating time limit of 2 hours on weekends, and there is a minimum order requirement of $15 per person.
That won't be a problem, thanks.
大家好，第一部分我们看到单字 grill， 这个字是名词，指烧烤餐厅或是烧烤店，像是 Kevin's dream is to open a restaurant called Island Grill in his hometown. Kevin 的梦想是在家乡开一间名叫小岛烧烤的餐厅。另外，除了上面的意思，这个字还有以下2种用法。第一，当名词时有烤架的意思，我们可以说 We put all the seafood on the grill during dinner time. 我们在晚餐时间把所有海鲜都放上烤架。第二 grill 也可以当动词，指烧烤或是盘问审问。举例来说， James plans on grilling some steaks for his family this weekend. James 打算这周末为家人烧烤一些牛排。或是 The detective grilled the suspect in an attempt to get a confession. 警探拷问嫌犯，企图获得招供。接着我们看到形容词 minimum， 指最低的或是最小的，像是 Joe got a bad grade since he put minimum effort into his essay. Joe 拿了低分，因为他对论文没付出什么心力。另外，这个字也可以当名词，指最低限度或是极小值。举例来说， To get this job done, I'll need a minimum of 3 days' time. 要完成这工作，我会需要最少3天的时间。再补充一个相关片语 keep something to a minimum， 表示保持某事物的最低限度。例如 Please keep the noise to a minimum. We're in the middle of a training session. 请将喧闹声降至最低，我们正在进行培训课程。
So welcome back. We're going to look at part 1 of today's dialogue focus, which is going out for brunch. And Paul has called a restaurant to make a brunch reservation. And the restaurant manager answers the call and says, "Hello, this is Brooklyn Grill. How may I help you?"
That's how a restaurant manager should answer the phone, being polite and asking what the caller would like. And yes, how may I help you? What can I do for you? And this particular establishment is called the Brooklyn Grill. A grill is kind of like where you cook meat. And so if it's a grill, then it's probably a restaurant that serves grilled food, probably burgers and steaks and stuff like that. And this one is called the Brooklyn Grill. And Paul says, "Hi, I'd like to make a reservation for 2 for brunch this Saturday." So it's not Saturday yet, it's actually Wednesday today. So Paul would like to make this reservation for Saturday. And yes, Paul wants to make sure that they have a table available because, hey, maybe brunch is very popular at this restaurant.
Yes, and the restaurant manager asks, "Okay, what time would you like to make the booking for?" So that's the first question that restaurant manager would ask upon receiving a call for a reservation is, when would you like to come?
Exactly. What time would you like to make the reservation for? 10 or 11 or something? And Paul says, well, around 10:30 a.m. So Paul is a little flexible here. It doesn't have to be exactly at 10:30. It could maybe be a little earlier or a little later, around 10:30 a.m.
And the restaurant manager says, "Let me just check for you." And the restaurant manager checks, looking at the computer or the reservation booklet. And the restaurant manager replies, "Yes, we have a table for 2 available then. What name should I put down for the reservation?"
Yes, so they have a table available. In other words, they can use that table. They can reserve that table. And yes, indeed, what's the name? Of course, when you make a reservation, you need to provide your name and, of course, a phone number in case they need to call you if you're late or something. Hey, are you going to come here or not? Well, here Paul says his name. He says Paul Gatherson. Thanks.
Yes, and in the United States, and I believe in England also, in the UK also, it's very common to say thanks often. It's maybe not as common in other countries speaking other languages, but thanks is something that is often added to the end of a sentence just for courtesy or politeness. So Paul says, "Paul Gatherson, thanks." And the restaurant manager replies, "My pleasure. Just to let you know in advance, we have a seating time limit of 2 hours on weekends, and there is a minimum order requirement of $15 per person." So there are certain rules for eating at this restaurant.
And the manager wants to make sure Paul understands this. Just to let you know, we're going to tell you this in advance, ahead of time, so you won't be surprised on the day. You can only stay at your table for 2 hours on weekends because other people would like to come in too. 2 hours is plenty of time. And then, of course, you have to spend at least $15. You cannot spend less than that. You can't come in here and just order a small drink or something and sit there and study for 2 hours. No, you've got to actually come in and eat. And there is a minimum order requirement of $15 per person. Paul understands. He says that won't be a problem. Thanks. It looks like the reservation has been made and they're good to go.
That's right. And here, the word minimum just means the least necessary or the least possible of something, and it is the opposite of maximum. So I could also say the minimum age for driving with a full license in the United States is between 16 and 18 years old, depending on which state you live in.
And also in the United States, we have something called minimum wage, the least amount of money an employer can pay you legally. And again, Paul has made the reservation. So now we're going to actually go to the restaurant when Paul goes there with Joy, and we'll find out how they order their food in part 2, Ordering Food.
Ordering food. Paul and Joy are looking at the menu and discussing what to order.
Everything looks so good. I don't know what to get.
I can't make my mind up either. I think I'm going to get something savory, but I'm torn between the Eggs Benedict and the cooked breakfast.
And I can't decide between the avocado toast with smoked salmon and the BLT.
You should get the avocado toast. It's seasonal, so they won't always have it.
I think you're right. How about you? Are you ready to order?
Yeah, I'm going to get the cooked breakfast. Are you guys ready to order? Yes, I'll have the cooked breakfast and she'll have the avocado toast. Great. And what bread would you like? Sourdough, thanks. And can I get my eggs sunny side up? Certainly. And what bread would you like?
I'll have the rye bread, please.
Can I get you anything to drink? Yes, I'll have an Americano.
I'll have a flat white, thanks.
第二部分，我们看到单字 savory， 这个字是形容词，指咸味的或是辛辣的，像是 These rice dumplings have an incredibly savory flavor。这些粽子非常咸香美味。另外，除了上面的意思，这个字还可以指美味可口的。举例来说 Phil had prepared a savory and enticing meal for his girlfriend Rita. Phil 为女友 Rita 准备了美味可口又诱人的餐点。再补充一下这个字的动词 savor， S-A-V-O-R savor 指细细品尝或是慢慢享受。例如 Regina savored the flavor of the pie. Regina 细细品尝那个派的口味。或是 Justin savored his chess victory over his older brother. Justin 品味下棋击败哥哥的胜利滋味。再来，我们看到片语 be torn between A and B， 表示在 A 与 B 之间左右为难。例如 Stan was torn between the black hat and the white hat, so he bought both. Stan 不知道该选黑色还是白色帽子，所以他两顶都买了。或是 Glenn was torn between his duty to his family and his duty to his country. Glenn 在对家庭的责任和对国家的责任之间左右为难。最后，我们看到单字 seasonal， 这个字是形容词，指季节性的或是季节的。例如 This part of the country is easily affected by seasonal storms. 该国的这一区相当容易遭受季节性暴风雨侵袭。
Well, in part 1, Paul has made the reservation for brunch at the Brooklyn Grill. And now here in part 2, we're going to look at ordering food as Paul and Joy are in the restaurant. They are looking at the menu and discussing what to order. And Joy says, everything looks so good. I don't know what to get.
Exactly. So she's perused the menu, she's looked it over, and she thinks that there are lots and lots of good choices, and she just doesn't know what to eat, what to order, because there are so many good choices. Paul says, I can't decide either. I can't make up my mind either. Or I should say, I can't make my mind up either. Make up one's mind is a verb phrase in which you can move the preposition around a little bit there. To make up your mind or to make your mind up. Both are acceptable.
Yes, and there are so many delicious selections on the menu that Paul and Joy cannot make up their minds. They can't decide immediately what to order. And then Paul says, I think I'm going to get something savory, but I'm torn between the Eggs Benedict and the cooked breakfast. So Paul has decided that he doesn't want something sweet. He wants something savory, which is something that tastes of salt and maybe other spices. So personally, I prefer savory foods to sweet foods for breakfast also. But Paul is unable to decide between the Eggs Benedict and the cooked breakfast. He is torn between these two choices. Now, when you are torn between two things, A and B, you are unable to decide which of those two things you want more because they are both so appealing.
He's torn between the Eggs Benedict and the cooked breakfast. He cannot make up his mind. He just can't decide. And Joy says, well, I can't decide between the avocado toast with smoked salmon and the BLT. BLT, of course, is an abbreviation for a sandwich with bacon, lettuce, and tomato, one of my daughter's favorites. And yes, she can't decide between these two choices. avocado toast. That's where you take an avocado and you take that sort of green sauce and put it on the bread, right?
Yes, avocado is in Chinese is 落梨. And when you have an avocado toast, you basically have a piece of toast and then you mash the avocado. Of course, the avocado has to be ripe, soft enough to mash to turn it into kind of like a soft consistency. And then you just spread it on the toast. And if you add smoked salmon with that, then it becomes absolutely delicious. Salmon, of course, is a type of fish. It's a sea fish with pinkish-orange flesh. It lives in the sea, but it also goes to the river to lay eggs. And smoked salmon is a very delicious food.
Yeah, I understand they serve this at sushi restaurants, and it is so tasty that some people actually decide to change their names to salmon. But in this particular case, it's smoked salmon and the BLT. She's got these two choices. Paul says you should get the avocado toast. It's seasonal, so they won't always have it. You should take advantage of the opportunity now to have the avocado toast because you won't have this choice in a couple of months because it's seasonal. Like here in Taiwan, of course, different kinds of food are seasonal. Like mangoes are seasonal. I think they are sold mostly during the summer months.
Yes, mangoes, lychees, those are seasonal fruits because they're available only in the summer, and then you have winter fruits and vegetables as well. And there are also fruits and vegetables that aren't seasonal. They're available all year round.
So in any case here, yes, he's giving her a suggestion here. Yes, get the avocado toast. It's seasonal. And Joy says, I think you're right. And how about you, Paul? Are you ready to order? Have you made your mind up yet?
And Paul says, yep, I'm going to get the cooked breakfast. So basically, the cooked breakfast is, you can also say an English breakfast. It consists of eggs. It could be scrambled, sunny side up, along with bacon, toast, and tea or coffee. So it's a set breakfast. It's pretty hearty, different from a continental breakfast, which is only a piece of bread and some coffee. So Paul has decided to get the hearty cooked breakfast, and the server comes and asks, are you guys ready to order?
Exactly. That's what the server should ask. Are you ready to order? Are you guys ready to order? Paul says yes. And Paul goes ahead and orders, I'll have the cooked breakfast and she'll have the avocado toast. I think in some situations it's polite for the man to order for himself and his female partner, but when I was growing up, we all ordered for ourselves. So here Paul, I guess, is being polite here to order for his companion there, but she could have also ordered herself. It doesn't really matter.
Yes, and another point here is the server says, are you guys ready to order? So they are in a grill. A grill is an informal, casual restaurant. So to ask, to say guys to customers is a very informal way of addressing customers. So in a fancier restaurant, the waiter may not say, are you guys ready to order? But in any case, the server says, great, and what bread would you like?
Yes, they get a choice of bread here, and Paul wants sourdough bread, which is one of several choices. I'm assuming here maybe he could get a croissant or wheat bread or white bread or whatever, and he's choosing the sourdough bread. So that's his choice for bread. And then the server says, certainly. The server has written down Paul's order, and then the server turns to Joy and asks her, and what bread would you like? Paul has selected sourdough. What kind of bread do you want, madam?
And Joy says, I'll have the rye bread, please. And rye bread is made with rye, which is a particular kind of wheat, and it's usually rougher and harder than normal white sliced bread.
It's very dark. I have not seen it here in Taiwan. It's probably here somewhere, but it used to be my favorite and my mother's favorite. We kind of like that kind of bread. It's very, very dark and kind of sour. And the server has another question. Can I get you anything to drink? What would you like for a beverage? And Paul says, I'll have an Americano, which is a kind of coffee.
Yes, it's a black coffee, and it's usually tall as opposed to an espresso, which is short. And Paul orders an Americano, and Joy wants a flat white, which is coffee with milk.
Coffee with milk. Isn't that a latte? Isn't that the same thing?
A flat white is an Australian term. It originates in Australia. I think it's similar to a cappuccino or a latte, but it's just a different name for a drink that has milk and coffee.
Wow, I feel like an ignorant slob here. When I was growing up, we just had Folgers instant coffee, and you just made it with hot water, and you put some coffee creamer in there, and you were good to go. How things have changed here. I guess next time I go to have brunch, I could try these different kinds of coffee here and become a coffee connoisseur. But yes, this does indeed sound tasty. What do you think of their choices, Helen?
Well, I think that the choices are very hearty and it's a lot of food to take in, and it's not something that should be eaten every day, maybe enjoyed once a week, because otherwise they might have problems with their blood pressure and cholesterol level. You can't eat bacon and smoked salmon every day.
I guess you can't eat that stuff every day, no. And I'm assuming that if they're having brunch, then they'll probably want to have dinner a little earlier. And that's why it's good to be here in Taiwan, because, hey, if you have an early dinner, you can still have some 宵夜, or your midnight snack, if you get hungry later in the day. Okay, that brings us to the end of our discussion for today. Let's now listen to our Chinese teacher.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。在第一段对话里， Paul 打电话到餐厅预约，那么餐厅经理最后就有提醒 Paul 说，他们餐厅周末是有2小时的用餐时间限制，还有每个人低消15美元。那讲到低消的时候，文中是用的单字 minimum， 它可以用来形容是最低的最小的，也可以当名词来表达最低限度或是极小值。好，那我们来学习它的字根。看到 min 或者是 mini 这一类字根，它就带有小的意思，像很多小巧的东西会在前面冠上 mini， 像是 mini skirt 迷你裙， mini bus 小巴小型巴士，还有你可能会听到 mini series 就是迷你剧，就是像那种比较短集数比较少的电视剧。还有说像 minute 分钟这个字，它跟小有什么关系呢？这个字它带有字根 min， 那其实 minute 它可以当形容词来描述它是微小的，这时候意思就跟 tiny 差不多哦。好，再来我们看到 minimum 这个字呢，它的 minimum 这个部分表示小，那么 是最高级形容词字尾，把它合在一起， minimum 就表示最小的最低的。好，那顺便补充几个有这一类字根的单字。第一个是miniature 或者 miniature， 它的字根 mini 表示微小的，那么 ate 是动词字尾， ure 是名词字尾，合在一起 miniature 它当形容词就可以形容是微型的小型的，那么当名词可以指向袖珍化小型物品等等。好，那么第二个补充的是 diminish， D-I-M-I-N-I-S-H。 好，它的字首 D-I 是源自于字首 D-E 的变形，在这边是表达完全，做强调用。那么字根 M-I-N 表示小， I-S-H 是动词字尾，所以从它字根字首这个字面意思来看，就是去强调它小嘛，我们把它合在一起 diminish 就是表达减少、缩减、降低的意思，就跟 decrease、lessen、reduce 这些动词意思差不多。好，那么再来看到第三个补充的是 minister， 它的字根 mini 表示小， ster 表示人，合在一起字面意思就是小的人，地位低下的人，也就是像仆人啊、侍者。那么后来这个字就被借来指大臣，大臣不就像是帝王的侍者吗？我们就用这种方式去联想到说 minister 带有大臣啊、部长的意思咯。好，那么第二段对话是关于点餐， Paul 他想要点咸的来吃，可是他没办法做决定，他就说 I'm torn between the eggs benedict and the cooked breakfast， 班尼迪克蛋跟熟食早餐这两个让我好难以选择啊。好，那么 tear T-E-A-R 这个字当动词，它就有撕裂的意思。动词三态是 tear, tore, torn。它的过去分词 torn 呢，可以用来形容是犹豫的、难以抉择的。Be torn between A and B 就表示在 A 和 B 之间它是犹豫不决、难以抉择的。像是 I'm torn between the plain blue dress and the polka dotted one。 我不知道该选那件素面蓝色洋装还是要选圆点的那一件，好难抉择啊。这时候你身边的朋友就会说，小朋友才做选择，两件都买起来吧。好，那么以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天的单字吧。
Grill。We ate at Dave's Bar and Grill last night, and the food was excellent. Minimum. Jenny couldn't apply for the job as she didn't meet the minimum requirements. Savory. This cafe sells a variety of both sweet and savory foods. Salmon. I recommend pairing the salmon with this white wine. Seasonal. It's often cheaper to cook using seasonal vegetables.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Roger.
I'm Helen.
See you next time.